What's going on YouTube? Zero Lead here, and I'm back again with a new video, episode 73 of the Disco Era u.s.s Enterprise tutorial. I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's video, and if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And today we have about a 33-minute video. We're going to be working on our crew mess hall. I know I've had a couple of people asking me in the past when I'm going to be adding this, and this is just one of the many rooms that we'll be adding over the course of the remainder of this tutorial. There's still a whole bunch of stuff left to do, and as you can see here, I've got a couple of screenshots that we're going to go through. This is an art rendering of the TOS Enterprise mess hall, and this is what it actually looked like on the show. You can see up here it's actually got some windows. You can see it's kind of got like the archway going across like in the picture. There's my other mouse doing the same thing. And then we're going to go into the third picture, and this is the Disco or the u.s.s Discovery's mess hall. And you can see that actually looks very, very similar to the Enterprises, but they're not exactly the same. And again, you know, they're just different class ships, so there's going to be some variations between the two. And but you can definitely see the references are there. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. And you can see I'm on the saucer section, and we're going to go to the left down our first larger corridor all the way till we get into the middle junction, and then we're going to make our first left, and that's coming up here in just a second. Cool, so now we're in the middle left of our saucer, so we're going to go on the left side here, and this is where our crew mess hall is going to go. So we're going to grab a few items real quick, and then we're going to get right into it. I was pretty lucky to get my hands on this picture and the different screenshots. I mean, just even off this one alone, I was able to get a heck of detail out of this room because of it. And by the time we're done with it, it has like a real nice retro feel to it. And I think it's really going to suit the rest of the feel of this ship. And but at the same time, there's one or two things that are going to be slightly different. And if that's the case, and there's something that doesn't look right to you, one of the beautiful things about building these starships is that since there's uh, so many iterations of them, you could really, in all honesty, just build whatever you want. And that's kind of how I do it at this point. I build these ships as close as I possibly can to the source material, but I also add my own spin to it where I see fit because it's just something that I'd like to do. And I think it usually ends up looking pretty good. You can see that, again, I'm going off the cut to kind of line out my room, how big I'm going to make it. I also need to get a couple of sea lanterns in here to brighten it up a little bit. I always try to remind myself that at the beginning of the build, because sometimes I do forget little things here and there when I'm going. I get excited in the moment, I just start building away. But I've been pretty good about that, and we're actually going to wrap up this build in one episode. So I've been getting pretty good about that, trying to really shave it down to one episode if possible. In some cases, it's just going to have to be, you know, two, sometimes three or four. Like I've been telling people, I'm working on right now a mock tutorial of the Enterprise D. That's why I didn't do a video on Monday for Starship Evo, because I was trying to get that wrapped up, and I'm going to edit that together to try to see how many episodes that's going to be. But that was even a challenge in itself, just to get the mock done, because the Enterprise D, it's got some unique lines on, especially with the neck. That was the hardest thing to do on it, but I was able to get it in a way that it came out pretty good. But I'm really trying to prep myself to build a large-scale Enterprise D. Before I do that, I think more than likely my next build after I'm done with the Enterprise is more than likely going to be the Cerritos. I know I was saying Voyager for a while, and Voyager, don't get me wrong, is still going to be a ship that I plan to do, but that's going to happen from time to time as I go through these tutorials. As I'm going through it, you know, I might be feeling a certain way, but as I get towards the end of it, you know, I might not be feeling it, but at the same time, I just want to keep going with the videos. But one thing I've noticed on here, and this is, you know, how I am anyway, not everybody is the same way, but I got to be feeling the build. I really do. I've got to be feeling it, and I've got to be inspired to do it. Otherwise, it's going to come out like crap, and I'm not going to want to get on and do it. And I want this to be fun. And so far it's been a blast doing it. Every single one that I've done so far, I mean, I've been pretty on top of it, getting these episodes out on a consistent basis, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I hope that you all have been having fun with this also, and this is giving you some inspiration on stuff that you can do. But again, don't take what I'm doing set in stone. Again, because one of the cool things with this is that you can pretty much take a lot of liberties with the interior. So we're going to flatten out this wall again on the side of the corridor, kind of like what we did in the crew quarters. But that's really going to be the only similarity between this room, because I could have made it to where it was built into what we have here, but I think that this is just going to look a little bit better. And that, there's definitely going to be some areas to left and right. Some of those rooms aren't filled in yet, but that's definitely one of the reasons why we're going through this tutorial right now, to get the rest of these rooms done. And then once the ship has been completed, I'll be moving on to other stuff. But yeah, if there's any other ships that you would like to see me build, be sure to drop a comment below. And yeah, I mean, you never know, might be something that I could be interested in doing. Like I had a couple of people actually ask me for the Enterprise, or not the Enterprise, uh, Excelsior in the Enterprise B. And those are actually pretty cool ships. I always liked the Excelsior. That's going to be a ship that I build at some point. I don't know how soon it's going to be, but it's not going to be too far off. Um, because as I get better with doing this tutorial, doing these videos, I'm hoping to cut down the amount of time that it takes me to get them done in, but still giving you guys uh, a moment to moment build from beginning to end, because I know one of the things that I don't personally like, and this is just my own experience, I don't really care for the speed builds. And the reason I don't like the speed builds is because there's so much stuff that you don't get a chance just to go over with a builder, and there could be things that you get stuck on, and that's really one of the reasons why I do this tutorial series the way that I do it. I really try to break it down and bring you with me on building this thing up. And that's one of the reasons why I say while I'm building that we're doing this or we're doing that. That's because we're technically building this thing together. And believe it or not, a lot of your suggestions and feedback go into the builds. So essentially, we are building this ship together. And we're on our journey here to build the most complete enterprise that we possibly can. And I think that I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to do it, but I think that we're going to come pretty close, because it's not going to have the same levels as a full-scale enterprise, but to be honest with you, this one's going to be more detailed. And that's why I think this one is definitely going to be the better one out of the two, just in my opinion. But now that we have our room kind of mapped out, we start to add in a couple of windows here and there, because that's something I want to get done a little bit early on right now, because once we get our windows in, then I'm going to start adding in some of the pillars that you can see here along the sides. Now, in the picture, the windows are a little bit higher up. I don't really like that. I think it was the same way when we were looking at the Discovery crew mess hall, but I don't know. There's something kind of weird about having to look up to see a window. I feel like the window should be kind of like within eye level a little bit. That makes a little bit more sense. So that's kind of the reason why, I'm going to adjust it right there. But see, I'm hopping over to the other side of the ship when we were working on the crew quarters, because I'm just double checking to make sure that my glass matches. And I've said this in the past, if you're not sure, go back and double check. There's no shame in it. At the end of the day, it saves you time from making a mistake and then having to go back and correct it. That's just kind of how I look at it. It takes less time for me just to go across real quick, just double check, make sure I'm using the right shade. Because if I didn't check, I would have been using a lighter shade of blue, and I would have had to change that, which is what we have right there. I don't know if two windows are going to be enough. Kind of feel like maybe need two more, possibly. Then we're going to build out this wall a little bit more. Try to give it like a little bit of a stronger look. We could just use what we have, and that's definitely an option if that's something that you want to do. You want to use the walls as they look, you can definitely do that. But I'm going to shape this out a little bit just to try to make it look just a little bit cleaner if possible. Now this is just like a temporary strut line to see, the proof of concept. Uh, I am going to settle on this, and we're going to have to make these. We're going to swap these blocks out for like a purple color. And I know that's not exactly how it looked in the live action picture, but I'm going to do it because of how it looks in this one, and also because I think it is just going to help sell the fact that this is kind of an old ship and it's been in service, for a good 10 years. So this is you know, kind of like the previous era. It's kind of like what I'm getting at. So it should definitely have like a retro feel to it. So I'm just building these struts off my cuts. How I have those spaced out. I think right in here, in this cubby hole, we can do another window. And then we can do the same thing on the left side, and then I think that's going to be enough for windows. Shouldn't have to add anything more than that. But that's definitely one of the reasons why you want to wait to add windows in, because we already had those windows there. We would have been a slave to wherever those windows were placed, and this, is working off of what we had on the interior, so it's going to make it look that much more better. So we're walling off this wall for right now, but that room on the other side, we're actually going to be turning that into the kitchen um, here before this video is over. Because again, I'm going to be doing this in just one shot today. And if this is something that you want to turn this into a working, living ship, you're definitely going to have the space to where you can make a couple of modifications to do whatever you need to do. But the base structure of it is going to be here, and it's going to look pretty cool when it's done. I'm kind of like doing like another pillar on the wall side with the corridor, and I'm like extending the pillars down past that, the ones that are going out towards the outer saucer. Should be able to build that out with no problems. But for whatever reason, if I'm not getting specific enough in this tutorial, I do think that I'm going slow enough that you shouldn't have any issues. But if you do get stuck somewhere, make sure to drop a comment below. Usually pretty responsive in the comment section, and if I can, I'll try to help you out. If I don't answer your comment, it could be because I either already answered that comment, already answered that question, or I might be getting ready to answer your comment in a video. So now I'm trying to get an idea of what shade of purple I want to use for these pillars, and um, that's more of like a hot pink. I don't know if that's going to work, but even if we go with a darker purple, um, I don't know if that's really going to be the way to go. I think this is almost like a gray, but it looks purple, um, but it's like a faded purple. I don't think it looks bad. This is what we actually settle on, is this shade of purple right here. Now, I'm not going to make the walls pink because I don't think that that would work on what we have going on cohesively with the ship. We are going for a retro look, but there were a couple of color choices here and there on the TOS Enterprise that I didn't bring over, and I don't think that will look good. I think some of these colors that we're using will. I would like to believe that all the colors that I chose really work and help give it like a modern yet retro look at the same time. Because I try to stay true to the TOS Enterprise as much as possible, but also letting the Disco Enterprise influence it a little bit. All right, so we can't delete that block. That has to stay there. And see, that's just basically like a bright pink. That's not going to work. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. I think one going along the corner of each wall here is appropriate. I think that'll look pretty good. So the basic shape of our room is really starting to come together. Now we just got to get a little bit of detailing in. We still have to add in, we have to finish off the room just a little bit more. Have to add in our chairs and tables. And then we have to do the kitchen as well. But we're definitely rocking. We're already at 15 minutes into this video. It was just over 30 minutes when we started, and we've got about 17 minutes to go. You can see again, I'm trying to match these different shades of purple, and both of these shades they stand out way too much. I wish there was one just a slightly less vibrant shade of purple, but not this dull. This is just a little bit too much dull, but I still, for the sake of it, I wanted to keep it there. I could have went with a different color too. I could have done like a green or something like that, but we've done that in a couple of the other rooms, and I wanted to change it up just a little bit while keeping the overall same design how we've had some of these rooms set up. Because again, that's definitely going to tie into it when you're building this thing. The transition of going into each room. Does it feel like the same person built it through and through? And you'll definitely notice that when you look on any enterprise, really. You notice those same design cues carry over from room to room. And, like, sure, there's a slight variation here and there, but for the most part, a lot of those same design cues, they just carry right over. So that's really the logic behind why I'm doing this the way that I'm doing it. But I'm also, this is not going to be a super big room because um, one of not a lot of people actually know this, but one of the reasons the TOS Enterprise looked the way that it looked was really two things. They had no budget, and they actually based the interior of the Constitution class off of a submarine. So that's why a lot of the interior felt very compact. That was Gene Roddenberry's logic behind it, to try to bring some realism into it as much as they could with the amount of money that they had. So that's kind of something I've really tried to keep in mind when I've been building this. That sometimes less is more. And, like, if you look at if you watch the finale of Star Trek Discovery season 2, when they actually show like a good portion of the Enterprise interior, it's just like engineering, for example. Like, it's this just giant room. And the only thing that you can make out what it is the warp core. They have all this crap all over the walls, and you can't even make out what it is. And, like, they just threw up all this stuff just for the sake of having a large and grandiose over the top room. And they're not the only ones that've done stuff like that. They did that with the the Kelvin universe. They really started doing that when Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out. Like, when you came into the shuttle bay, and like they had like the cargo room was massive, and some of the interior shots just wasn't matching up with the scale of the ship, and that's just something that's carried over a little bit from show to show. I think maybe one of the only ones that looked right, to me anyway, was like the Enterprise D and Enterprise E. Those were pretty much spot on, and they felt like they were the right scale from interior to exterior. But, there's definitely a lot of things that go into these builds, or at least that I look into when I'm building them, because, like, I feel like every ship kind of has like its own set of rules, as far as things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. And a lot of those things can usually be determined by just, doing some research before you start every build. If you're not sure, just start looking into it online. Find all the exterior shots that you can of the ship, find all the interior of the shots of the ship that you can. See if you can find any blueprints. If there aren't any blueprints, you might have to go into the forums, start talking to people that know something about the show or that specific show or movie where your ship is from that you can get the information from. Because that, even myself, is something that I've done for this build and every other build, because I think that I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to, like, ships within Star Trek, because I love the show, but at the end of the day I don't know everything. So that's honestly why I ask people on here the questions that I do. Like, if there's stuff that you want to see me do, drop a comment. And like, when you guys usually guys and ladies make suggestions, a lot of times I actually incorporate it into my ship, because um, sometimes I'm either not aware of it or I just kind of missed it. But like, for example, somebody who was today or yesterday, they suggested a gymnasium, and that's something I wasn't even thinking about it up until today. And I was like, man, like, I was just thinking about this. Like, I really was thinking what other rooms I could add, and then I thought of a gymnasium. I just kind of forgot about it, and then somebody commented, and I was like, I should probably build one. This will be fun. So I went online and I found a couple of pictures of the gymnasium that they showed, and then I had to find a couple of other pictures from a different class ship that I'm going to use to fill in the gaps, because they only show like a couple of angles of the gymnasium from the TOS Enterprise. But I have enough to work with that we'll be able to flesh it out, and like, we'll cross that bridge once we get there. But my point is, I'm trying to make is that just do the research, and if you're not sure what to do, just ask questions. And even then, you could still take a lot of liberties and have fun with this thing, because that's really the the goal, or at least for me anyway. When I'm doing these builds, I just like to have fun, and this is just something to relax and do. And I definitely love the build, and I do like Star Trek and just anything nerd related in general. So it's just kind of a win-win for me. So we have our table template in place. I'm trying to figure out what colors I want to use here, because I know that I'm going to use the white for the table, but I think I'm going to be using this slightly dirty stair as the actual chairs. The Oh, I put the wrong one down. The polished dorite. Hope I pronounced that right. But it kind of gives it like a look that maybe it could be a leather. Not really sure. But I think it adds a little bit of texture to it, where it's not just a white chair where it blends in with the table. The goal here is to make it stand out a little bit. That's why I didn't use the black, because this room, the floor is too dark, and if we change the color of the floor, it's not going to match the rest of the ship. So we kind of have to keep it like that, but we can kind of get away with having different colors for the chairs themselves. Now, between these two pillars, I'm going to cut out a 2 wide, 3 high wall, and this is again where our kitchen's going to go. And we're really going to use what we have. We're not really going to do a heck of a lot to this room. We're going to add in a couple of lights, and we're going to add in a wall and a doorway and a thing to put, like, that would be considered like a grill, I guess, and then call it a day. We're really going to use this existing piece right here for the grill, and it's going to look pretty cool when it's done. So we got a cauldron on each side, got the furnaces going. That definitely looks like a stove right there, just with that added block and what we did down there. We can bring that down one more. I think that'll look good. It'll almost look like that's a steam vent. We'll cut out 2 wide right there, but not take out the bottom one. Leave like a window in there, kind of like a chef's window. I think that'll look pretty cool. Very appropriate for this area, I think. because they did have the replicators on this version of Enterprise, and that's what that gold piece that I made on the right side wall was for. I wasn't talking about it at the moment. I was talking about other things, but that's exactly what that piece is on the right side. That's supposed to be a replicator. But the Enterprise did have a chef, and I know that the Enterprise A had a chef also. So that's definitely the reason why we're going to be putting in the kitchen, but definitely not really needing to do a heck of a lot more at this point. We're kind of getting to a point where we're sort of winding down, just getting the last loose ends done here before we wrap this one up. But I think what I have going on here, it's simple, but it really works for the overall look of the ship. It definitely fits within it. Um, One thing I am going to do is that we're going to add in these half slabs in between these pillars that we have going along our roof. And the reason I'm going to be doing this is because we can't take out any more of our ceiling going above us. Because if we do, then we're taking literally plating out of our deck, and you'll be able to see, into the ship. So if you look up, this all doesn't match. So that's really the reason why I'm doing this, because we just want to cover up the decking a little bit, make this room just look a little bit more cleaner. But also at the same time maintaining the shapes of these pillars, because I think that they look pretty cool the way that they look. They have kind of like that ribbing effect, and it makes it look a little bit more like a starship. We got a couple more rows to do. I know that I had another person ask me questions actually yesterday about why I didn't give the crew their own bedrooms, and because they had on Discovery. And I commented back on that. But that is something I would like to talk about if it's something that you're not too familiar with. Um, One of the reasons I did that the way it is because on Starfleet ships, they have different class rooms depending on what your rank is. So on Discovery, the main cast, they're all they're bridge officers, and they're officers in the medical field and engineering field, but regardless, they're all officers. So they've been assigned junior officers' quarters, so they have their own independent room. But especially on a Constitution class ship, there's just not enough room on the ship to give everybody their own bedroom. So yesterday we were just working on general crew quarters, and that's just for lower ranking officers. But we are going to get into the junior officers' quarters, which will be the equivalent to what you saw on Discovery. And then I've also have captain's quarters, and then admiral's quarters, or slash MVP quarters, slash like diplomat quarters. So there's a couple of different class quarters that you get on the Enterprise. Because think about it like this: why do you think Kirk's quarters looked different from um, Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan to Star Trek 6? Did you notice that he went from this giant room down to a little one? That's because in Wrath of Khan, he was still an admiral. He was rocking the admiral status, so they gave him the admiral's quarters. And when he, after Star Trek 5 and 4, when he got demoted, when we saw his quarters in 6, or yeah, I think it was 6 was the last one, he had this tiny captain's quarters. So that's kind of why it looked the way it did. And when we get into those rooms, we'll definitely talk about that more. But that's just one of the many things that you can do when you're building your ship. That attention to detail is going to help just make it look a little bit better. See, like the window frame that I'm making right now, I'm using the stairs at different angles to give it a lip, and then we'll delete the block that I added in the center, keep the window maintained. There we go. Make that a different color, because we can't go with the white, because then it blends in with the rest of those blocks. And we can't take out those white blocks in the concrete floor going along the edge of the room, because that actually goes to the outside of the ship. We also did like a lip over here for the food replicator. That looks pretty good. You can say I didn't do the half slabs on the right side. I'm going to have to do that. If I don't cover it in this video, you can go ahead and go over and do that now. I think I'm going to get that right now, though. All right, perfect. No, we're good. You just definitely want to make sure that when you start one thing on one side, you do on the other one, just to make it consistent and all the way through. So I like that white pillar going across with the purple for some reason, so I'm going to leave them separate colors. I did that on purpose to match the other side. Yeah, I think that might look good. That would be appropriate there. Add in a block at the very top here. It'll make the pillar look a little bit more complete, I think. Oh yeah, that looks way better now. We can get rid of these gray blocks in the middle. That kind of looks weird with it just sitting there like that. There we go. All things considered, I think this room came out really good. And as you can see, we still have room to do more, and there's more still to come. There's more rooms that I'm going to be filling in. And if there's any other rooms that I have not done yet, be sure to drop a comment below. Let me know what I've missed. Uh, I've gone over the different crew quarters I'm going to be adding in. I still have to add in the conference room, the gymnasium, and the arbitrarium. And I still have the impulse engine rooms that I have to add, as well as the science labs. If there's any other rooms that I'm missing on my enterprise build, be sure to drop a comment below and help me out in my quest to build the most complete enterprise that we possibly can. We're going to go back into the kitchen here. We're going to get storage bins to kind of make like shelving, so this way you can put your food up or whatever you want to put up. Grab a couple of chests. So when you come in here, you definitely want to be able to put some stuff up. Maybe along this top gray row, we can take that out and we can replace that with storage bins. I think that'll look pretty good. Might have to jump up there to reach them, but I don't think that looks bad. Let's get rid of those two half slabs. And we're going to get rid of the blocks here so we can get that window back. And I think that's going to wrap it up. I don't think that there's anything else that we have to do other than what I'm doing right now with these half slabs going along the wall there in the kitchen. I think that looks pretty good. And well, we also have to do the ceiling in here just to stay consistent with the rest of the ship, or at least the rest of this room anyway. Oh, I think the actual immediate kitchen itself, that would be the only room we don't need the half slabs because we don't necessarily need to add it. But I think that's going to wrap up episode 73. I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. And if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe on this video. And I can't thank you enough for that. Every like helps. And any new subscribers, if you're checking out my channel for the first time, there's definitely more to come. And matter of fact, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes Tuesdays through Fridays. And you can also catch my new Starship Evo builds on Mondays. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. I just want to thank you again for tuning into today's video. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I will catch you on the next build.